Okay, so welcome to final unit 8 of our course, and we'll be looking at prevention of snakebite. And this is Professor Tagre here with you. So, what do we intend to achieve? Well, by the end of this unit, the participant must be able to state reasons why snakes enter into people's homes, must be able to discuss strategies to avoid indoor snakebite, as well as discuss strategies to avoid outdoor snakebite. And then also must be able to explain what to do if the participant is to come across a snake at home or at work or in any other place. So those are the things that we want to try and cover today in this unit 8. Hold on. So, like I said earlier during the other units, snakes don't really want to bite you. They are not in the habit of looking for people to bite. Perhaps I should give one exception, which I am just realizing I did not talk about when we were talking about venomous snakebite, especially the cytotoxic envenoming snakes. But for some strange reason, um, the Mozambique spitting cobra actually does have a bad habit. It's the naughty one in the bunch, the exceptional one, the exception. So the Mozambique spitting cobra has a tendency of getting into people's homes at night and biting them whilst they sleep. And scientists are still trying to figure out why it does that. But yeah, that's the only exception. Otherwise, snakes generally do not want to bite you. And if you stand still, a snake should just ignore you because it doesn't feel threatened. Snakes will only bite you when they feel threatened or they are cornered, except for that one exception, the Mozambique spitting cobra, which does, I mean, there is video evidence as well as a number of cases to support the fact that it does bite people for no apparent reason. Strange snake. So, just to go through this slide. So, snakes generally prefer not to confront larger animals, and they prefer to just flee or hide, especially even these venomous ones. Your black mamba and your snouted cobra, quite shy snakes which they prefer to escape. Except again, another exception is the puff adder, which like we saw when we talked about cytotoxic envenoming, that it has got a bad habit of basking in footpaths, and therefore people can actually step on it by mistake. Otherwise, snakes just disappear. They run away when they see larger mammals. So, before we look at specific strategies, it's extremely important that as healthcare professionals, or even as the public in general, we should just have an idea of the venomous snakes that exist in the area. And once you have an idea of the venomous snakes that exist in the area, we one learn how to keep out of their paths. And also, in the event that there is a snake bite, we know what type of advice then to give. And also, depending on the snake, if you know what snakes are in the area, you would also probably know how best to avoid bites from the snake. If you know you've got lots of puff adders, you want to avoid these footpaths, and probably you want to walk when there's lighting and other things. Look at me, I'm already preempting myself and my slide. But it's good for you to just know the venomous snakes that are in your area. And well done for taking up this course, because it's a very good start. So well done. So let's talk a little bit about avoiding indoor snake bite. But before we go into the details of avoiding indoor snake bite, we need to say talk a little bit about why snakes come into your house. So the first reason why snakes come in to the house is to escape from adverse weather conditions. So in essence, they'll just be seeking shelter. So on a cold, rainy day, clammy day, the snake might just come into your house because your house is much warmer. So in that particular instance, it's seeking shelter. It's not coming into your house to terrorize and attack you like we see in the movies. The second reason why snakes come into the house, not only the house but even into your yard, is because they are seeking for food. And the food that snakes eat, largely we're looking at your rodents as well as other little animals, but rodents especially. So if you've got rodents in your house, the snake will also probably want to come into the house to come and find the food, the rodents. And then the third reason might be because the snake is running away from another predator or perceived predator. And this could occur perhaps if there is a wild cat or maybe a cat in the neighborhood and it's chasing after the snake, and as the snake is trying to escape, it finds a way into your home. And the fourth reason is that the snake is running away from you. Perhaps you see a snake outside and you pick up a stick or you throw stones at it, and as it is trying to escape, it escapes straight into your house. So, with these things in mind, we can then formulate or think of means and ways and strategies to avoid snakes coming into our house and therefore avoid snake bite in the house. So, here are some ideas. If you keep maize, as we do in our rural areas as well as other places, your plots, you want to keep the granary away from the house because the granary could invite rodents and other little animals, and then these would in turn invite snakes that want to come and look for food there. Secondly, it's a good idea to avoid keeping chickens and livestock in the house or very close to the house because chickens also lay eggs, and the chicks could also be very good meat or food for snakes. So chicken eggs can also invite snakes to come into your house, especially if you are keeping them in the house. If you are to store food and you know that your house or areas around have got lots of rats or mice, then you want to store your food in rat-proof containers so as to keep these rats away. You keep the rats away, you keep the snakes away. And then, if possible, I mean, this is especially in places where you do know that they're infested with snakes, you want to avoid sleeping on the floor, and you want to sleep on raised beds or beds which are above your floor. Because if you sleep on the floor, it is possible that a snake can actually come in and give you a nasty bite. And then this is a very important one. You want to cut tree branches that are close to or make contact with your house, especially the windows. Like you see, there's a window over there, and the branch is pretty close. So if the weather conditions are not as favorable on the outside compared to your home, which is bound to be a bit warmer, the snake might decide to come into your house to seek shelter. Or if it feels that there is food in the house and is sniffing, they using its tongue, of course, for food, it might then decide to just enter your house through that particular route. So, if there are any branches which are close to your windows, just chop them off, cut them. Then you avoid snakes coming into your house. Okay. So, what about if you find a snake in your house? What do you do? Should you pick up a stick and start thrashing the snake? Well, if you can, from a safe distance, if you can, convince the snake to leave your house, do so. If you can, from a distance. Assuming that the snake that you're dealing with is not one of those big venomous ones. But if you can, close the doors elsewhere so that it does not move to other parts. Keep a close eye on it. So it's important, just keep a close eye on the snake. if you can't, coax it safely to come out of the house from a safe distance. And then call a snake handler or a snake removal expert. And I've put a number for you. This is Chawatama. For those who are in Harare, he's an excellent snake handler. For those who are in Bulawayo and other places, just try to find a number of a snake handler who can then be able to assist you to remove the snakes from your houses. Then how to avoid snake bite outdoors? Well, it's good that if you're walking at night on any footpath, make sure that you shine a light to see where you are stepping, because many people have stepped on snakes without seeing it. Also, if you're going to go into a bushy area or places where you can't really see the path, or perhaps a place where there's lots of rubble, you want to go there with booted feet and not barefooted, because if you go barefooted, you'll be beaten. It's always a good idea to wear gumboots if you're working in areas where you know that there are lots of snakes. It will protect you. Studies have shown that most snake bites occur around the area of the foot and the ankle. And if you've got a good, if it's gumboot or some form of boot with a good a leather skinned one, it would avoid you being bitten. Then you also want to keep the grass short and clear rubbish and rubble around your house, because snakes have a tendency to just want to hide in places where they cannot be seen. So if your house is nice and neat without any rubble, with the grass nicely cut and short, then you won't have any problem with the snakes. And then also, some snakes sham death. By now, I'm sure you have seen. I mean, you should be able to recognize which snake this is, because we did talk about one particular snake which is notorious for shamming death, with the white blotches there. That's the wrinkles, isn't it? So avoid handling dead snakes with your bare hands. If you have to move it, use a long stick, because sometimes a snake may be pretending to be dead and then it will get up and bite you. And even if it is dead, it's a good idea not to handle the head, because some of the venom might still be in the venom glands and you might get an. And then avoid trying to run over snakes with your car. Sometimes these snakes can get stuck underneath the car. You take it to your garage, you park your car, and then by the time the snake gets out of the car, maybe it's injured and extremely upset, and somebody can then be bitten. And then be careful where you step or sit. Always look around before you sit, especially in areas which are bushy areas where there's some rubble and other things like that. Just make it a habit to look around before. And then this is an important one, that during heavy rains, sometimes snakes can be moved to road to the roadside as the mud slides down. So when you're driving during heavy rains, just also be on the lookout. Look around and make sure that there are no snakes which are close by that you might step on. So yeah, those are just some handy hints for you with regards to snake bite and how to avoid it. And it's quiz time now. This is the last quiz of Unit 8. I hope you've really enjoyed the course. I, for one, have enjoyed preparing the materials for you. Um, and until we meet again, this is Professor Tagwire saying, I'll see you. Goodbye.